are so grateful to Thee for this opportunity that we have to be able to learn and to expand our minds. We ask Thee to bless us, that we will have a good discussion tonight, and that Thy Spirit will be with us, and bless those who are not able to be with us this evening. And we thank Thee for all of our many blessings, and we say these things humbly in the name of Thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Okay, cool. So does everyone understand the whole concept that was what was going on with the doping and the other drugs that they were taking? Does anyone not really understand what doping is? Everyone understands? Good?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I just thought we were going to clear that up before we got into the questions so no one felt like they were kind of in the dark on this. So, in your guys' opinion, what is Armstrong's legacy? Do you think his legacy's, the whole doping scene, or is it that he won the Tour de France 7 times? What do you guys think?
I think it comes out to both.
Yeah. Or is it the cancer bracelets? I guess that's another one.
Well, I think it comes up to many things, but I think his legacy is someone who thought they had to win at all costs. And that's really sad that that's what it came out to be,
Yeah.
But it's also kind of like, it's hard to erase those wins, because technically he did win. He cheated to get there, but he won. So yeah, you don't remember the second place people in this scenario.
Mm-hmm.
I think
but you always also go ahead. You also have to call into question, would he have won if he hadn't used performance enhancement drugs?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it comes down to for me. I'm like, oh, it's just frustrating. I wish he would have done it without. But you also have to think of, like, okay, if he was doing it, was he the only one that was doing it? So maybe the second place person was doing it too. So, but because he didn't win, it wasn't like brought to light. I don't know. So it's just, it's hard. It's frustrating because I feel for him. I feel for his story. I mean, getting cancer at a young age is hard. And then he probably thought he couldn't come back to full force without a little help. And he really legitimately did not think anything he was doing was wrong. So I feel for him. It's hard because you can't go back and figure out what would have happened if everyone would have played fair.
Yeah. Well, during his time when he confessed the whole thing, I remember the article talked about clear back in the 1960s, they started doing things to enhance their performances, and that all the athletes were doing it. And before this became such a huge deal, a lot of athletes were doing it. They didn't know what it was going to do to their bodies in the long run. When it started coming out that those athletes that did it in the 60s and 70s, then that's when it started becoming such a huge deal, But I remember when it first came out thinking, well, what's the big deal? Everybody's doing it.
Oh, yeah. And it was hard because there really wasn't like a set, like, oh, you cannot do this. It was kind of just like no one really checked. And it was kind of just, if you could secretly do it and get away with it, then you're fine,
Yeah.
I was kind of I was impressed at how much energy he put into cheating.
Oh, I know.
The money that went into cheating is just insane.
Yeah.
It's like, if his team was involved, which they were, then weren't the coaches involved? Didn't they have to know about it? And then on some level, didn't the sponsors kind of have to know what was going on? Because you have the bus driver was even involved. Mm-hmm. I mean, unless there was a screen, he knew what was going on. So how many other people besides, how many people did they have to pay off? And when you could have harder, I don't know.
Well, to me, his behavior when he confronted, was it Hamilton that he confronted in Aspen or someplace? That behavior is just so, yeah, you're using steroids or something, because that's kind of the behavior that comes from that, is very irritable and easily excited and those kind of things. So I thought, well, that should have been the telltale sign. If nobody else was convinced, that confrontation should have been it.
I know, but it was like, at the same time, it was that competitive attitude. Like, he was just, I will do anything to win. And if you're going to be with me on the podium, you're going to do it too. And like, I felt like they all wanted to win so bad, like no one was going to say anything. They were just going to shut up and do it,
Yeah, isn't that sad that
it is? It's so sad.
This is a prime case of peer pressure at work at the highest level.
Yeah, I couldn't even imagine. And like, it wasn't like, it's different. It would be one thing if it was just like the American team riders doing it, but it was like the top 25 riders were all doing it. Even, I'm sure it extended way on by, like, beyond that too,
Yeah.
So.
Well, and they'll have lifelong effects from the things they did.
Oh, totally.
And it probably has shortened their lives.
Yeah, for sure. And that kind of takes us into our next question, which says, Armstrong's organization, Armstrong's organized and led what was perhaps the most sophisticated and comprehensive cheating program in the history of sports. And it says, who suffered from his cheating and what were the costs? And I mean, there were so many people that were affected by it, not only the people who were using it,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, it went beyond, went to even the bus driver, to the doctors, everyone was lying there paying people off to keep their mouths shut. And it was like,
and like April pointed out, their competition, if their if their competition didn't do it, would they have been the winners? So they suffered.
Mm-hmm.
And to stay competitive, did they decide they had to do it too, so they could be competitive, so they could have a chance of winning? Either way. And I think ultimately the fans even and his sponsors suffered.
Yeah.
Is anyone like a super big fan of Lance Armstrong and was like devastated that he was cheating?
I mean, I like to ride bikes and stuff. I mean, I'm not like diehard follow the sport, cycling, but I remember hearing about that, and I remember being like shocked when they took away all his wins. I was like, holy cow, that's pretty serious. Like, I didn't understand the full seriousness behind it till they did that.
With my name being Lance, everybody said Lance, like Lance Armstrong, and so I just always thought he was really cool. And then this all came out. I was like, man, it was really
That's not that cool. Well, and like, being an American, it comes with like pride. Like, not, even with like Olympic sports and things like that, if, an American wins or comes out on top, it's like, you don't really know them, but, because they represent your country, you have a certain, admiration for them. And then it comes out, and, as young people that are dealing with cancer, like, that was a role model to look up to. And so it's like, it affects a lot of people.
I honestly wasn't surprised that he was found to be cheating. I really wasn't. Been shocked.
Why?
Like,
why weren't you?
Back in, I think it was like 2002, one of my favorite runners, Marion Jones, I think they found out that she was doping in like 2005 or something, and they stripped her of her Olympic wins. So I already had my hopes crushed by that, So I just my default setting is everyone cheats in sports, which is terrible.
Yeah.
But like,
it's just not a surprise anymore.
Everyone dopes to me.
Yeah. And what's sad is
especially then.
Yeah, and what's sad is like you could say, oh well, if everyone's doping, then I guess the competition's even. But even in the case study, it got down to there's different levels of doping, and of course Lance and them had it down to a science because they had all the money in the world to do it, and they're saying that this degree of cheating wasn't fair to the other degrees of cheating because they don't have the same amount of money, their doctors aren't as good. It was just like, you can't even,
Or a bus driver on hand.
Yeah, no kidding, yeah. So, which is sad,
Well, the bus driver faked breakdown or something, didn't he? For them, so they could do blood transfusions or something.
The whole team.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's
It
crazy.
was very sad. Because I think everybody ultimately paid for it. If you like, because you're an American and you were proud that he won all of these
But
cycling races in Europe and everything, and then come to find out he's tarnished that. The American that won 7 races cheated to do it and lost all his titles. So, that's always there.
But like, don't you think though, like on some level, we kind of reward going faster, doing everything in your power to improve physically, but the incentive is there to cheat, which is terrible. But like, I don't know. I don't know a way to prevent that type of cheating, but it just, I don't know. It surprised me because we reward it so much with sponsorships and a lot of money. So
and everyone wanted to, see records being broke. And Lance even talked about that, he's like, that's what made, we do it. People wanted people to go faster and, become better and better each year. And he's like, that's what it took to get to that level and to have that much excitement, in the sport. Just sad.
Yeah.
It
is.
So the next question, it says, were the other riders, Hamilton, Landis, and those who testified in court, were they too loyal to Armstrong or not loyal enough? Because, they doped too, but then in court, they were like, yeah, okay, we doped. Lance did this. We did this. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think they were loyal or not loyal?
I wasn't sure it was a question of loyalty.
Oh, really?
April.
Oh, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Sorry. I wasn't sure it was a question of loyalty as much as I think maybe they felt betrayed by him. He tended to turn and burn his teammates. He'd have them for a couple years and then they'd fall out of favor and he'd just kind of drop them. And Hamilton told that, he wasn't invited the next year to take part in all the extra prep stuff. And so it could be that they kind of had sour grapes, that they felt like he'd kind of abandoned them. And I think maybe they also realized what they had done and felt bad about it and decided they really needed to make it where other people wouldn't fall into that same trap, What do you guys think? Am I wrong? I could be wrong.
No.
It's just hard because, they wanted to do it for themselves, but then they wanted to do it for the team, and it was just like, where's your loyalty in it? Just where do you put it? You can't put it anywhere.
I think their loyalty definitely wasn't to themselves. It was definitely to winning at all costs, and Armstrong had a plan. So dedication to the plan until, what Carrie said, he has a tendency to turn and burn, and the result is, well, but like doping allegations followed him most of his career. It wasn't, so I don't know. It just took the right evidence.
I think you get to a point where all the athletes that are going into it, they start feeling bad about it, they kind of it starts eating at them, but they don't know how to bring it out without bringing everybody else down too at the same time.
Yeah.
So even Hamilton said that he wished he would have just dropped the pill back into the bottle and never used it the first time. But once you start, you're in it.
Yeah. Seriously.
Yeah. Plus, how do you confess without burning yourself? Because you're just gonna look bad. You're gonna look like an accessory. So that was probably weighing on their minds, and that's probably a tactic. It wasn't said, but it's probably a tactic that Lance used. He's like, well, you go down. If I go down, you're coming down with me, So.
Yeah. So, if you guys, the next question, it's, have any of you guys been in a situation where you've witnessed a leader, formal or informal, make a decision that made you uncomfortable or others uncomfortable? Kind of like this. Has anyone, seen this in the workforce or anything like that?
Like every political leader, or most.
Yeah, but like more on a personal level.
I have one. Did you guys not have? Did you not have one?
No, you can go ahead and
I
share.
feel like I'm talking entirely too much tonight. So.
I like it. Keep going. I haven't had anything personal like this before, so
Okay,
not
so
like at this level.
I really had to dig, and so mine's kind of like this. When we were in Colorado, we had a computer business that we sold hardware and the software direct from the supply from the channels. So this happens to be Microsoft, but I didn't put that in my report. So we sold Microsoft, and at the time, our biggest competitor, which was across town, started selling counterfeit, which you can't tell the difference unless you really, really know what it is. At that time, they packaged it like it looked like the real thing, but he was getting it from like China. And we knew, I don't remember how we found out, but my husband found out and knew for sure that it was counterfeit. But he was our competition. We shared customers. And so if we told on him, we were going to, our customers would have been mad. If we didn't tell our customers, they're selling counterfeit stuff to the end users. And so it was a really hard situation to be in. And actually, Microsoft ended up catching him before we figured out whether we legally could do anything or not without getting ourselves, somewhere pulled into a liability suit or something.
Wow.
And he ended up having to sell his business and to pay off the fines that Microsoft leveled on him for it.
Dang. That's crazy.
That'd be a hard decision.
It just makes you like, you just don't ever want to have to be in a position where your leader is doing something where you're like, holy crap, that makes me so uncomfortable, because you want to impress your leader and you want to be loyal to them. But if they're going to do crazy stuff like that, it makes it so hard for you to follow. And a good leader should never put someone through that, So,
well, and he had 30 employees, which all lost their jobs.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
bad. Dang. So the next question, it says, think about a situation where you witnessed talented followers follow a leader into a comfortable or bad zone. What was the situation? What were the results? Did anyone object? I'm trying to think of any.
So I read Carrie's write-up, and I was thinking about sports examples. I don't personally have one, but there was a bunch of Mormons who went to my high school, and they all played basketball, and a lot of them ended up quitting for the exact same reason, because the varsity coach of the women's basketball team would encourage players to go party together, and oftentimes that clearly involved drinking, and they almost every single Mormon quit and refused to play for him. So the result was he lost a lot of talent on the team, and in fact, he could have lost his job, because obviously you shouldn't be encouraging that kind of behavior, your players to go out and drink. But that made me, Carrie's example made me think of that.
That was digging way back.
I know.
Yeah. Yeah, there was kind of a similar experience that I had in high school where we had this big basketball tournament and we were away. We were staying in a hotel and it was JV and varsity, and a few of the athletes did drugs one of the nights in the hotel, and somehow the coach found out. And it was one of those things where we all kind of knew who it was, who were the guys that were involved, but no one said anything. And they locked us in the gym, after the tournament was over, and they said, no one's leaving the gym. You're all sitting here until someone admits to doing the drugs. And we sat there for 3 hours. No one said anything. Everyone's in complete silence because we're all looking at the kids that we were like, it was definitely, you guys, because you hear stuff in the locker room or whatever. And finally, a kid that wasn't even part of it admitted. He's like, fine, it was me. And, he got into big trouble and all this stuff. And I think he felt bad because he was there and he didn't necessarily do anything, but the fact that he was there, you know, he admitted to doing it, and the kid that was like the main ringleader of that, you know, he ever since that day, he's like, you know, after we graduated high school and stuff, he was been super addicted to drugs and like has been in rehab his life. He was married and now he's divorced, you know, and it's sad, you know, and I think back to that time where I'm like, you know, maybe if he would have said something and, you know, suffered the consequences then for it, it wouldn't have had this long-term effect on him, you know. So that's just kind of my experience with that.
You could have gotten the help early.
Yeah, and, you know, and it just kept escalating because he got away with it. You know, if you could get away with it in that kind of situation, you think you can get away with anything, you know, and then finally it comes to bite you in the end. So
yeah, that's really sad.
Yeah. So what basic principles guide your integrity? Are there times when there is a gray area? How do you choose correctly? Kind of a tough question.
Lance must have little ones trying to get his attention.
I'm so sorry. Just me and my two boys, and they broke out of bed.
Oh, it's okay.
So sorry.
It's okay. They're cute little voices.
I completely even missed the question.
So it says, what are basic principles, or what basic principles guide your integrity? Are there times when there's a gray area? How do you choose correctly?
I think it goes back to your primary days. What would Jesus do, right?
Yeah.
I think being part of our religion and our church, it kind of ingrains into us the importance of integrity and being truthful and honest in all our dealings and stuff like that. So I think, at least I know for me, that has had a huge impact when something's being dishonest or something. There's a chance to be dishonest. It kind of weighs on you pretty heavily of, yeah, I should not do this. Yeah. I think just kind of going back onto the principle of the gospel helped me out quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, from age 12, we're asked the temple recommends us to go. So, you know, and then lying, you know, if you have to lie about it, then it's even worse. I think, you know, I had a wayward path when I was younger. So, but I didn't really have anyone to set an example for. And now, having my own family, I think the, you know, the main driver is like, what I want my kids to be ashamed of. And so that's huge for me. I'm like, well, I want to do the right thing because how can I expect them to do the right thing if I don't make the right choices? And so that's huge for me now in this stage of life. I think it's a lot easier when it's just, oh, well, this isn't that bad or whatever, you know, when you're younger. But when you have other people relying on you later on, it's what really stops me from, you know, nope, you know, it might be hard, but I got to say the right thing. I got to do the right thing because I don't want to be ashamed of it later or have it come up later, or, you know, have my children suffer because I didn't.
I agree. When you have kids, you suddenly realize you have to hold yourself to a higher standard if you want them to.
You're their hero. I mean,
yeah.
So
I remember a situation where the grocery store had turkeys on sale, and it was a really good sale. But so I had bought two of them. I bought two smaller ones, and my son was with me. And I got out to the car and I got to look at the receipt, and I went, "This isn't right." He goes, "What's not right?" And I said, "Well, she gave me one turkey completely free when she rang up the sale, and she charged me right for the other turkey. And I don't think this is right." He goes, "Well, that's okay, Mom. You can just take the extra turkey." I said, "No, Jake, we got to go back into the store." So we went back into the store, And the cashier was so grateful. And I went, I set a good example for my son. But it would have been so much easier. I was in the car. Everything was already in the car. I could have driven away. Nobody would ever caught it. But yeah, it's when you're setting that example for your children that you start to really hold yourself to that higher set of integrity.
No, for sure. Yeah, it just all goes back to what you were taught, you know, when you were younger. And I think, I don't know, I don't know who's all served missions, but for me, you know, there's just times on your mission where you're like, yeah, it'd be so nice to just close my eyes right now and take a little nap, you know? But, you know, like you have that little, you know, that little spirit with you, and you're like, no, I gotta get up and get out the door and go find people, or, you know, and it just kind of goes back to your integrity, I guess.
It's true.
Plus, when people know, we always talk about if people know your LDS, I mean, missionaries specifically wear the badge. So it says, I am who I am. And so you think about, they're watching you. And so if I make a bad choice and they're like, oh, well, I'm never going to join the church because all Mormons are two-faced, you know? So you really have to, if you have that mantle on you, you definitely have to. I mean, callings in the church can be huge. Okay, well, if I have a big calling in the church, or even if I'm, you know, just a primary teacher, and like the kids that I, you know, like, are they going to see me Monday through Saturday in my tank top and, you know, whatever, doing whatever, and then on Sunday I'm like, oh, I preach modesty. Like, what are you doing? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I wrote it in my thing, but I think having a temple recommend, like you said, that's really important to me. So those questions really ride with me, you know, and I think they're kind of those guiding principles of, am I honest in all my dealings with my fellow man? Is that question that just always makes me think long and hard about going back in and paying for the stupid turkey.
Yeah.
You know, my boss and my dad's not an active member, and my boss is, I think he's Catholic. He actually hired me because he found out I was Mormon, and I was telling him about my mission and stuff. And anyway, it was an interesting story. But like in my interview, he said something that has kind of stayed with me, and it's like something that I've kind of adopted in my own personal code of conduct. And it's he always says this phrase, like, I'll never do anything unethical, illegal, or immoral. And in business, my dad shared a couple of experiences. He owns his own business, and he's told me it doesn't matter what market you're in or how good or bad the market is. There's always an opportunity to cheat. There's always an opportunity to lie. And he's like, you have to know who you are, or, you know, those, when you're in a hard spot, like those offers look attractive, and you have to understand and know and have a game plan so you don't fall into those traps.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like they, well, in Young Women's, we always taught the young women to decide now. You know, we do it with the missionaries too, with young men, but decide now that you're going to be married in the temple, to make that your goal. And it's the same kind of thing. You decide what standard you're going to live by before you come up against those times when you've got to make that tough decision. And it's a lot easier to stick with that standard then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really is. Cool. So then the next question, it says, how will you personally measure your life, and how will you measure success? And, you know, I'd like to talk to Lance Armstrong and see how he feels, you know, the outcome of everything. And, you know, if he could go back, what would he change, you know, and see how he measures his life. It'd just be kind of interesting to ask him that, you know.
Was it worth it?
Yeah. And, you know, it's tough because you'd want him to say no, but I feel like he'd say yes just because, you know, he won so many Tour de France's, and, he was successful, and he from the beginning though he was very special individual. Like it talked about his younger days, even how he was winning these races at such a young age, and it's just sad that it all led up to that, But I don't know, it'd be tough. Really like to find out, But I mean, how do you guys think you should look at your lives and measure your lives?
Well, I bet you. Maybe,
I'm so sorry. I'm gonna have to disappear for a second. I'm so sorry.
Hey, you're good, man. Don't worry about it.
Thank you.
probably as an older mom, I look back at the things that I should have done better and realize that that's not something I can fix now. And so I hope that my measure of success is though that my family and my husband and my children and grandchildren know that they come first, that they're loved, and that I love my Heavenly Father and I serve Him. And so those are my measures of success. We've definitely had some ups and downs in our financial life. And so I've learned that money's not all it's cracked up to be. And so that's not where I want to put my treasures, I want my treasures to be those things those relationships and things that are going to carry on to the next life. So.
For sure.
My life based on my own personal level of integrity and how, like when you're younger, like you're still kind of building, your character and stuff. And I like to measure it based on how true I feel like I'm being to the principles and are right. And I think integrity in all situations is super hard, but it's something that everyone respects in the long run. Everyone to be dealt with honestly and fairly. And I think that's one of the most important aspects for me and how I measure my life.
Yeah, going off of that, those two things are huge. But I like to be known for someone that, was honest no matter what. I think that's big for me because I want to be who I am, no matter what day of the week it is, no matter what I'm teaching, that I'm an example of that. And so that's what I want to be known for. What could you trust me in a room alone with $1 million and you know that I wouldn't take a dollar of it because my integrity, says that that's what I would do and blindly trust me because that's who I want to be. And that's the example I want to set for my family and let them know that that's important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For sure. Yeah, I had a professor here in one of my classes here on campus in BYU, Idaho, and he was telling a story. He used to work for Micron, and I think he was I want to say he was the CFO for them, and they ordered a bunch of products from a different company, and the products got messed up, and anyways, they're going to reimburse him for what got messed up, and this check got written out. Instead of getting the check being written to Micron, it was written to him, his personal name, and it was like $278,000. It was a personal check with his name on it. And he's like, I sat there when I got the check. He's like, I looked at it and he's like, I thought to myself, no one would ever, I'm really the only person that knows that we're getting reimbursed for this. He's like, it's in my name, this would be almost nearly impossible to trace back to me. So then he called it was either it was one of his accountants or something. He called him into his office and he showed him, he's like, look at this check. And he's like, the accountant looked at me like, are you like thinking what I think you're thinking? And he's like, you know why I brought you here? And the accountant's like, not really. He's like, I wanted you to be here and watch me deposit this check into the company's bank account so that if anything ever happened, I have a witness that, is there to let people know that, hey, I didn't steal this money, and he gave us all. It's kind of cool. I still have it. He gave us all these little coins with this message on them. I think it's in my wallet still, and it said something like, it said something about, how will you measure up in the end? Are you going to be honest in your dealings with your fellow men? And that's what he told us. I did not want to be remembered as that, and I didn't want to remember myself as that kind of person. He's like, I was way, my integrity was worth way more than that check was. But I mean, that's just one of those like real life situations that anyone could be put in, business in some form or another,
That's a great example, though.
Yeah, I thought it was crazy. I was like, holy crap, that's pretty crazy. Yeah, he's a pretty cool guy. But anyways,
I liked the reading where, the second one, the Harvard Business Review, that talked about how will you measure your life, and how can I be sure that I'll be happy in my career. The second question to ask is, how can I be sure that my relationship with my spouse and my family become an enduring source of happiness? I love the third one. How can I stay out of jail? But then he went on to explain that some of his classmates are in jail. Big name scandals.
Yeah, seriously. Didn't it mention Enron being one of those scandals?
Yeah, Enron.
I lived in California during that time when Enron happens. Power bills are insane. I think my parents said for their business, they ended up getting a power bill that was like $3,000 at the time. It was ridiculous.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Who pay that?
Exactly. How do you pay that? My dad became like a light Nazi at work. He was like shutting off lights, shutting off power. If we weren't using it, it was off.
Yes.
Unplugged.
You're better off to go buy a bunch of batteries and lanterns at the store.
Seriously.
Wow.
Yes, I know. We pay $30 here in Rexburg for our tiny apartment. Nothing.
Yeah, well, the bigger the house, the more that goes up. But
Oh, that was my parents' business. And I think at the time they had a couple of pretty heavy pieces of machinery, but even still, like their bill was never $3,000. I think it like quadrupled or something. I don't know. I don't know what the number was. I just remember my dad being like, "This bill's $3,000." What?
I couldn't even imagine.
Oh man, yeah, because you have a business budget, and when something's way over that budget, you're in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously.
Especially when you have things like that going on. Business has got to suffer because of the scandal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
You get scared.
Yeah. Well, you guys, it's been a great discussion. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to add before we call it? That was all the questions that were on the paper for this week.
So
do we have to actually? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, it's okay, April. Go on.
Did we have to actually do a write-up this week?
It was just the discussion board, right?
Well, we were just supposed to answer all those questions and post it on the discussion board.
Okay.
But it's worth the same amount of points as our write-ups are, so make sure you post.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Cool. Right. Well, if there's nothing else,
have you guys looked ahead?
As far as next week?
Yeah. So the very last thing on this week's is to prepare for next week.
I saw it. It's kind of big.
It's kind of weird, and so we may be emailing each other back and forth a little more next week. So.
That's fine. Yeah. Let's just. I'm probably gonna take a look at it on Monday. So, yeah, I just think the earlier the better. If anyone has any questions on Monday, that'd be the best time to get them in.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we have a little bit of prep, and then we're supposed to meet and discuss and convince everybody to where we all come to the same ratings on this thing. And then I think we have another write-up to do at the end of it. So it's a little bit different order this next week.
Okay.
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 Well, yeah, we'll play it by ear and help each other out.
Okay, sounds good.
Cool.